Guys, NIO has just provided us with some incredible information. We know that there's tariffs, and right now Chinese cars going to Europe, you have a expensive import tax, and then on top of that there's a tariff. But NIO has just said, screw the tariffs, our Firefly brand can still compete even with those tariffs. This is very interesting. Have a listen. This was, by the way, just 3 days ago.
Let's now look at the tax in Europe. It was originally 10%. Now it has increased by 21%. This amounts to a tax of 31%. Let's discuss from the perspective Firefly. Even if they collect this much tax, we can still compete.
So NIO is very confident that Firefly will do tremendously well in Europe despite the tariffs and taxes. Now, but what about Onvo? What about NIO? So in this video, let's also calculate how big of an impact that might have. And if we take the price of this car Onvo in Europe, can it still compete plus tariffs? What's going on with that? Now we know for a fact that NIO's Onvo L60 has a starting price of 219,900 RMB, and this is sort of like a reference price, so it's not the official price. The official price might even be lower, and NIO said that they have very healthy margins and they have much more room to make the price even lower. But we'll just take this number for reference. That equates to 28,324 euros. Okay, and then if you slap on a 31% tariff plus tax, that's 37,105 euros. For comparison, the Model Y in Germany starting price starts at 44,890 euros. So, Onvo car with tax and tariff, EU tax, EU tariff, is still cheaper than the Model Y starting price. But of course, you have to ship the car over to Germany. Well, how much does shipping cost? Shipping cost around $2,500 US dollars to $3,500 US dollars to ship from China to Germany. So if you add that together, all right, the car price in China converted to euros plus tariff and tax, which is 37,105 plus 3,300 euros shipping fee, you're looking at 40,400 euros for the car landed in Germany. Okay, that is still 4,400 cheaper, right? Euros cheaper than the Model Y starting price. So definitely Onvo L60 can definitely 100% compete in Europe. And what they're going to do is they're going to go with a dealership model, and that dealership is definitely going to lower NIO's costs when trying to sell this car over there in Europe. Now, it doesn't really make sense for Onvo's L60 to be more expensive than the Model Y, so they're definitely going to have a price point that is cheaper than the Model Y, like they do here in China. It's definitely going to be cheaper than the Model Y, okay? But what's interesting is the ET5T and the ET5T price here in China, the discrepancy, all right? The ET5T in Europe, in Germany, is 52,000 euros, and this is without the battery. Quite expensive, all right? For reference, the ET5T without battery here in China is only 229,000 RMB, which is around 29,490 euros. So, in other words, the European ET5T without battery is 76% more expensive than it is here in China. Okay, and this is only with the 10% import tax and shipping fees. This number might change with the tariffs. So taking this ratio, 76% more expensive, if you multiply that by the conversion price, the starting price of a Onvo L60 here in China, that equates to 49,850 euros, which will be slightly more expensive than a Model Y. But definitely Onvo is going to have cheaper costs of sales. It's not going to have those NIO houses or or anything like that. So we can definitely expect NIO's Envoy cars to be much cheaper than the Model Y. But wait a second, what about the NIO cars in Europe? Well, 21% extra tax, that's definitely gonna make NIO's cars a lot more expensive. But the thing you gotta remember is the people that are hurt the most are European consumers, right? And also Tesla's gonna be hurt more than NIO, because Tesla's Model 3, European Model 3, is actually built in Shanghai. So they're importing those cars. That's also subject to tariffs. So that's going to really make their cars even more expensive as well, the Model 3s. So in that aspect, you know, the everybody's losing. The European consumers are also losing. And I think the biggest thing to remember is that this car will definitely be cheaper than the Model Y, even in Europe. It's definitely going to be a hot seller, okay? And also here in China, if we see retaliatory tariffs, which we are probably going to see in some sense, probably higher import trade war kind of tariffs imposed on the EU, then this is definitely going to help make NIO sell even better, because you know all the other brand cars are even more expensive. And I'm not too sure if you guys know about this, but the Firefly cars will apparently just be sold in NIO stores. It'll be just like a sort of like BMW Mini, and it's gonna be basically just its own little spot inside a NIO store. So it's not going to really cost them a whole lot to sell these cars. And NIO sales reps can also sell these cars, whereas Envoy, they will have their dedicated stores here in China, dedicated sales reps, dedicated marketing team, etc. For Firefly, it's just gonna be like in the NIO stores, and everybody can buy it and they can just check it out. In Europe, however, both Envoy and Firefly will be most likely 99% chance going to be dealership, because the cost of, well, they can't really have any more costs if they want to make these cars much more competitive. So it doesn't really make sense for them to have additional stores over there in Europe. The big takeaway from this video is the fact that NIO is constantly polishing their products, making sure newer products have higher margins, and despite these tariffs, which are unreasonable, they can still definitely compete in those high tariff environments. And it's going to be tough, but you know, NIO will prevail. NIO will succeed at the end of the day. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.